Hello, today we're going to have our first lesson on the chemical analysis topic. We're going to look at gas tests and testing for positive ions with flame tests. So first up, this is hopefully some revision from Key Stage 3. There are 4 gases that you should be able to identify: hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and chlorine. I want you to pause the video and have a think about how you would test for these gases. Right, let's check your notes then. Hopefully you've identified that to test for chlorine, we need some litmus paper. It needs to be slightly damp and you put it into where you think the gas is and it should bleach, so it will go kind of a white colour. To test for hydrogen, that's our squeaky pop test. You take a lit splint, put it in and you'll hear that really characteristic squeaky pop noise. To test for oxygen, we need a lit splint, which we then blow out so it's just glowing. We put it into the oxygen and it should relight. Finally, to test for carbon dioxide, we need lime water. You put the gas into lime water, and if the lime water turns cloudy, then you know that you have got carbon dioxide present. Hopefully you didn't say, see if it puts a flame out, because while carbon dioxide will do that, other gases will also do that. So nitrogen would put a flame out, anything if you didn't have oxygen. So you need to use lime water to test for carbon dioxide. Right, I mentioned this morning that we were going to create some key cards to bring all this information together. So you need to find some of your key cards. And if you remember, we're going to draw a line on the back to split it into 2 parts. So front of the card, you're now going to put the thing you are testing for. So in this case, it's going to be hydrogen to start with. On the top bit, you will write how you do the test. So that would be get a lit splint and put into the gas. What will you see if it's present? You'll hear a squeaky pop. So now hear a squeaky pop noise. So I want you to pause the video here and make your key cards for hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and chlorine. Right, we're now going to think a bit more about testing for ions. What we're doing builds on the knowledge you already have. So this table you should have stuck in your book. It's something we've seen lots and lots of times before. It's the charges of the ions. You need to know this. You're not going to be able to do this unless you get this lot in your brain. So first up, I want you to think about just reading ionic compounds, get your brain back into that. So I've got here 5 ionic compounds. Using that little table, I want you to write down what ions are contained in each of those compounds. So pause the video here and do that, please. Right, hopefully you've used your table to identify the following. So sodium chloride contains a sodium ion, Na+, and chloride, Cl-. And you can see that some of them are more than 1 plus or more than 1 minus. So pause the video and check your answers, please. Right, we're now going to think a bit more about the testing. So in order to determine what's in our compound, the first thing we need to do is separate those ions. So we need to dissolve our substance into some water, and then there are 2 options. First thing, we can do a flame test, and the second thing we can do is called a precipitation test, and that's what we're going to look at in the next lesson. So thinking about flame tests then, I sadly can't be in the lab to show you. I'd love to, it's one of my favourites, but the Malmesbury School have done a great job of recording it. So we're going to watch that to see how you would carry out a flame test.
Hi, this is Mrs. Pearson from Malmesbury Science, and today we've got another chemistry required practical for you. Now, this one is only required if you are doing the separate GCSEs. So this is called identifying ions. And we're going to look at various methods today on how we can identify both metal and non-metal ions in solution. I'm going to start with metal ions, and I'm going to use the method of flame tests to identify which metal gives which colour in a flame. The metals we're going to look at are potassium, lithium, calcium, copper, and sodium. And I'm going to do this flame test in 2 ways. First of all, I'm going to show you how to use a piece of nichrome wire to put the metal into the flame. And then I've also got some spray bottles, which you probably won't do in the lab because it can make a bit of a mess, but it does give you a really good flame colour. So to start with, using the nichrome wire, this is just a thin piece of metal bent into a loop at the end. You may have seen me use this on a previous video when we were testing the purity of water and we were testing for the presence of sodium ions. Exactly the same method here. And I'm going to start with a solution containing potassium ions. Now, all of these are chlorides. So the chloride ion is constant in all of the solutions and won't affect the colour of the flame. It's just going to be the metal. I'm starting with potassium because this can be the hardest colour to see. And so I want to do it while the flame is still nice and clean, and so is my wire. So I take my potassium chloride solution. I open up the air hole on my flame so that it's a roaring blue flame, so there's very little colour in the flame itself. And then I dip my wire into the solution of potassium chloride, shake off any excess, and then just place it at the very edge of the flame. Now, this colour is difficult to see. There is a bit of orange there, but it's not that we're looking for. Look carefully and see if you can see a lilac purple colour. Do you see it? Just in the middle of the flame. I'll just do it one more time. Now, you may, in class, have actually looked at this flame through a piece of blue glass. This actually gets rid of the orange colour in the flame and makes the purple easier to see. Let's see if we can see the colour any more clearly if I use the spray. Maybe not that much, but what you're looking for in an answer is that the potassium gives you a lilac flame in the flame test. Now, between each metal, I'm going to just heat my loop right in the middle of the flame till it's glowing red hot like that. And that will just get rid of any metal ions that are left on the loop before I go to metal number 2, which is lithium. Now, this is also a group 1 metal, just like the potassium was, but it does give a very different colour. Watch this. There, do you see that really dark red colour? Usually described as crimson, this is very characteristic of lithium. Again, let's try the spray bottle and see if we can see that colour again. So, lithium. Beautiful dark red, crimson colour. Having cleaned my loop again, I'm going to move on to metal number 3, which is calcium. The colours are quite similar. Watch carefully. You still get a slight reddish colour, but calcium is described as an orange red flame, whereas lithium is described as crimson red. Make sure you don't get those two muddled in your exam. If we try the spray, we get a much more orangey flame than we did with the lithium. Now onto the instantly recognisable copper chloride, because its bright blue colour in solution always gives it away. But it also gives a really good flame colour. So nichrome wire at the ready and into the edge of the flame. I think that one's my favourite. Really clear, beautiful green colour. So let's see how the spray goes for the copper. Again, very distinctly green. And finally, sodium. Now, I've deliberately left this one till last because actually the flame colour is so bright and strong in sodium. If you do it first, it can actually interfere with the other ones. So with the nichrome wire, we see the distinctive bright yellow colour, and that's the same colour as you get in sodium streetlights. And finally, with the spray, very obviously yellow. So now that we've seen how we can test for different metals.
Okay, so you've seen there all the different flame tests.
Hi,
so to summarise our method, we need to take a piece of wire. It's a nichrome wire. That's an alloy, so it can withstand a high heat. We take a piece of wire that's got a little loop in the end. We dip it into our concentrated hydrochloric acid and heat it up to clean it. We then dip it in acid again before dipping into the solution that we're going to test, hold it in the roaring blue flame and observe the colour. So as we saw there, crimson is what we see with our lithium. If we see a bright yellow, we know it's sodium. We see lilac, we know it's our potassium. Orange red is calcium and green is copper. So I want you now to make some key cards for each of those flame tests. So again, symbol of the ion and its name on one side, the method and the result on the reverse. So you need to do lithium, sodium, potassium and calcium. Pause the video here and do that, please. Right, final bit then is to apply all the things you have learned about the different flame colours. So I've taken here a little extract from an exam question. I'd like you to read the question, pause and write your answer, please. Okay, here is the mark scheme then for the exam question. Can you mark your work and give yourself a score out of 4? Pause here and do that, please. Right, that's us done then. So if you should now have 9 key cards, can you put those in a pile and take a photograph? And you should have marked your answer to the exam question. Can you then attach those photos onto our Google Classroom? And finally, when you've got all your key cards, put them into the plastic wallet at the back of your planner, because we're going to need them to add on to and to practice and learn this. Thank you very much.